Okay, picture this. It's Europe, 25,000 years ago. The Ice Age is at its absolute peak. Snow is just blanketing the land, the freezing wind literally never stops, and darkness arrives fast. A small family huddles inside a rocky cave. As their fire dies down to just a few glowing embers, parents pull thick animal hides over their kids. But nobody dares to sleep deeply, because outside, the night entirely belongs to the predators. I mean, think about it. Humans had almost no physical advantage. We have no claws, no fangs, no thick fur to keep us warm, and absolutely zero night vision. For these ancient families, every single sunset could quite literally be their last.
So, welcome to today's Explainer. I am super excited to dive into this one with you. Surviving the Dark, How Ancient Humans Conquered the Night. Today, we're going to look at the remarkable and honestly ingenious survival strategies that allowed our fragile ancestors to actually sleep beneath the shadows of the Ice Age. How exactly did they close their eyes without becoming someone else's midnight snack? Spoiler alert, it wasn't brute strength, it was intelligence.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, The Ice Age Night, a battle for survival.
To really grasp what they were up against, we need to understand the sheer scale of the threat. The night was basically a deadly puzzle our ancestors had to solve every single evening. Just think about the sheer biological mismatch here. On one side of the equation, you've got predators like cave lions that can move without making a sound, and these guys were significantly larger than modern lions. You've got cave hyenas waiting patiently, with jaws literally capable of crushing solid bone, and Pleistocene wolves hunting in highly coordinated packs, smelling fear and blood from miles away. Then, on the other side, you have early humans, completely, hopelessly outmatched biologically. We were the ultimate underdogs in a truly terrifying ecosystem.
Now here's a fun fact that completely shatters that classic caveman image we all have in our heads. We tend to assume early humans just found a cozy cave, moved in, and lived there safely. But modern archaeological evidence paints a very different picture. Caves were never truly permanent homes. Actually, humans and massive predators shared the exact same spaces. Sometimes people occupied a cave, but when they left, the beasts moved right back in. Ownership bounced back and forth again and again for thousands of years. We were constantly on the move and constantly having to adapt. Which perfectly sets up Section 2, Engineering the First Bedrooms, Smarter Than the Dark. Let's look at how humans used early engineering to carve out safe havens in these terrifying temporary spaces. Because, surviving the night wasn't just dumb luck. It was about meticulous planning. You see, fire was way more than just a way to stay warm. It was a highly managed survival tool. Our ancestors didn't just build a bonfire randomly deep inside a cave. They understood a really critical fact. Trapped smoke is a killer. Breathing gets difficult, and going to sleep in a smoke-filled room is incredibly dangerous, so they engineered a fix. They slept near the cave entrance or tucked beneath rocky overhangs. This kept them close enough to the heat, but let all that toxic smoke escape. Plus, it illuminated the entrance to reveal any creeping predators. And when they couldn't find wood out on the open Ice Age steppe, they ingeniously burned animal bones and fat, which kept the fire burning steadily for hours on end.
They even invented what is basically a prehistoric nightlight, the stone lamp. Picture a small carved bowl filled with animal fat, with a wick made out of moss or strips of plant fiber. It put out this tiny but incredibly steady, smokeless flame. This was a total game changer. It meant a parent could check on a sleeping child, or someone could navigate through the dark to find a tool without having to stoke a massive, blinding, smoky bonfire. It gave them localized, controlled light exactly when they needed it.
And they didn't stop at just light and heat. Long before modern houses or mattresses were even a thought, humans were engineering safer, cleaner places to sleep, getting themselves off the bare dirt. Archaeologists uncovered this brilliant layered bed design at Border Cave in South Africa. First, they laid down a really thick base layer of ash, which basically stops insects from crawling upward. Next came a comfortable layer of fresh grass. And finally, they topped the whole shebang with aromatic plants that naturally repelled mosquitoes and other pests. Simple? Yes, but absolutely brilliant. Surviving the night wasn't only about physical tools, though. Let's move on to Section 3, the Natural Night Watch, Strength in Numbers. Here, we'll see how they protected themselves through social engineering. In the dark, there was quite literally strength in numbers. When they set up camp, it wasn't just some random huddle. It was a highly organized defense system. Ancient people rarely slept alone. Body heat was way too precious, so they slept packed very close together. But the layout was totally strategic. Children, the most vulnerable among them, were kept right in the center where it was safest. The strongest adults slept on the outer edges.
That meant if danger approached in the dark, the most capable fighters would face it first. On top of that, they knew that the scent of blood in animal remains was a magnet for predators, so butchering happened in one specific distant location, and leftover bones were discarded far, far away. This kept their actual sleeping area totally clean and scent-free.
And nature actually threw in a massive hidden advantage here. Because, as we know, not everyone in a family sleeps the same way, right? Older adults naturally wake up earlier. Young adults tend to stay awake later. Kids wake up at totally random times. Because their biological clocks were so mismatched, modern research suggests this created a built-in, natural rotation. Without ever having to assign an official guard duty, someone was almost always awake to hear a twig snap outside, or notice the fire getting low and feed the flames. The tribe literally functioned as its own alarm system.
Plus, they likely had some four-legged backup. Some researchers believe early canids, the ancestors of our modern dogs, often hung out near the fire. With their incredibly sensitive noses and ears, they could detect danger long before a human ever could. A low growl, a bark, or just a sudden twitch from one of these early dogs could provide that crucial split-second warning, the difference between life and death. Sleep, back then, was a collective team sport.
Which brings us to Section 4. Did fire build our brains? The evolutionary debate. Did these exact mastery over fire and the night actually alter the course of human evolution? There's actually a fascinating ongoing debate in the scientific community about this. On one side, we have what biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham calls the cooking hypothesis. The idea is that cooking softens meat and breaks down tough plant fibers, meaning the human body has to spend way less energy digesting it. And since brains are incredibly expensive organs, they consume a massive amount of energy, this freed up energy could be redirected to power the brain. Around 2 million years ago, Homo erectus evolved a much larger brain, and this camp credits cooked food for that massive leap. But, science is rarely a closed case. Many researchers look at the data differently. The counterargument points out that clear archaeological evidence of controlled fire only becomes truly widespread around 250,000 years ago, and that is way later than when those larger brains first appeared. So this side argues that early humans simply started hunting and scavenging a lot more raw meat. That richer, super-calorie-dense diet alone fueled the brain growth, long before we were cooking a hot dinner every night. It's an impartial, ongoing scientific debate. Maybe cooking transformed us, maybe raw meat did the heavy lifting, or maybe they worked in tandem over millennia. But whatever the exact timeline, what is absolutely undeniable is that mastering fire eventually gave humans the power to completely reshape our own future. All right, let's pivot to our final section, Section 5, the myth of 8 hours, rethinking normal sleep. Let's look at how our ancient biology seriously challenges what we call a normal night's sleep today. Nowadays, we're told that an uninterrupted 8-hour block of sleep is, the ultimate gold standard. But history tells a very different story. Check out this timeline based on research by historian Roger Eckerch. Before electric lights came along, human sleep was very commonly divided into two totally distinct phases. People would have their first sleep, and then they'd wake up for a period of quiet wakefulness right in the middle of the night. During this time, they might pray, chat with their family, repair some tools, or just tend to the fire. A couple hours later, they'd go back down for a second sleep. This wasn't insomnia, this was just the norm for centuries.
And if we dig even further back, the data gets even more surprising. Scientists fitted the Hadza people in Tanzania, who are one of the world's last hunter-gatherer societies, with sleep monitors. They wanted to see how humans rest in a truly natural pre-industrial environment. The result? They only slept an average of 6.25 hours a night. They woke up frequently, and their sleep efficiency sat at only about 69%. I mean, if you took that data to a modern sleep clinic, they'd tell you it was terrible. But here's the kicker. The Hadza are perfectly healthy. Why? Because their sleep is incredibly flexible. They take daytime naps that average around 47 minutes. Basically, they sleep when their bodies actually need the rest. Their sleep isn't this rigid thing controlled by an alarm clock on a nightstand. It's dynamic, shaped by their environment, the weather, ambient noise, and the needs of their community. Waking up during the night wasn't some modern sleep disorder for our ancestors. It was an absolutely vital adaptation for survival.
Which brings us to a massive clash with our modern lives. If you look at Earth from space today, you just see cities blazing through the darkness. For the first time in the entire history of humanity, the night is no longer truly dark. Artificial light follows us down our streets, into our homes, and right into our beds on our glowing screens. But for millions of years, human life followed the sun. Daylight meant movement and work, darkness meant rest and recovery. That ancient rhythm is what shaped our biology, our hormones, and our minds. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought to wrap up today's explainer.
Are we struggling so much to rest today because we simply expect our bodies to power down for exactly 8 hours like a machine plugged into a wall? Our ancestors survived the darkest, deadliest nights on Earth through flexibility, community, and constant adaptation. Maybe it's time we rethink our rigid modern schedules, you know? Forgive ourselves for waking up in the middle of the night, and maybe learn a little something from the resilient survivors who conquered the Ice Age. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and as always, keep questioning what you think is normal.